Caitlyn Clark's card sold for $366K. Aja Wilson's reaction says it all. It started as a rumor. Someone in women's basketball was about to set a record so jaw-dropping, it would stop sports fans in their tracks. Most assumed it was just another piece of internet chatter until the figure soared to a staggering $366,000. And everything changed. The athlete at the center of this massive revelation was Caitlyn Clark, a rising star whose skill, determination, and magnetic presence had been making waves since her college days. But as remarkable as Clark's record was, an equally memorable moment came from someone who wasn't even in the spotlight at the time: Wilson. When the news broke, Wilson's spontaneous outburst was caught on camera, and in seconds, the clip was everywhere. On social media feeds, sports highlights, and even mainstream talk shows that rarely mention women's basketball. Suddenly, what began as a single record-setting achievement became a chain reaction of speculation, hype, and controversy that stretched far beyond a single game or athlete. Was this a turning point for the WNBA? Or was it yet another blink and you'll miss it? Headline in a long line of underappreciated milestones in women's sports? The truth lay somewhere in the middle, tangled in rumors about league politics, overshadowed marketing campaigns, and swirling accusations of hidden agendas. One thing was certain, though. Caitlyn Clark's $366,000 record and Wilson's electrifying response to it had peeled back the curtain on a world far more dramatic than most people realized. This script unravels those threads, shining a light on the controversies, challenges, and surprising alliances that emerged in the wake of a record that nobody saw coming. Stick around, because what happened next might just reshape the landscape of women's sports for good. Caitlyn Clark's rise to stardom. Before she became the talk of every sports forum, Caitlyn Clark was already a name whispered in basketball circles. Growing up, Clark showed an almost uncanny ability to anticipate plays before they materialized, often leaving defenders stumbling in her wake. She combined a blazing offense with a precision-based style that quickly turned heads at the college level. Coaches, commentators, and die-hard fans watched her progress with bated breath, convinced they were witnessing the making of a future legend. What truly set Clark apart was her composure under pressure. In crucial moments when most young athletes might crumble, she excelled, sinking last-second shots, executing cross-court passes that defied logic, and seizing momentum at the exact moment her team needed it. Her performances were so commanding that rumors of pro-level interest swirled, long before she declared her intentions. By the time she officially stepped into the WNBA, everyone knew this was no ordinary player. But with extraordinary talent often comes extraordinary scrutiny. As Clark's star rose, so did chatter about whether the league was adequately prepared to spotlight her. Women's basketball, historically overshadowed by the NBA, had been hungering for a crossover star, someone who could not only dominate on the court, but also capture the mainstream imagination. The question was whether the WNBA's existing infrastructure could handle that kind of pressure, or whether Clark's unique potential might be subdued by the very system that should have elevated her. Behind the scenes, some league insiders were said to be ecstatic about Clark's arrival, viewing her as a magnet for endorsements and a potential ticket to bigger media deals. Others, however, worried that banking the league's future on a single rising star left it vulnerable if her success stalled or took an unexpected turn. Still, the majority of fans just wanted to see her play, and play she did, in a way that justified the excitement pulsing through every conversation about her. Yet no one expected that just a short while into her career, she'd set a record that would put a $366,000 spotlight on women's basketball. Even fewer could predict the explosive fallout that came when another superstar athlete reacted in a moment that would end up defining the buzz around Clark's achievement. The unveiling of the $366,000 record is. The rumors escalated. The sports world braced for something big, though no one was quite sure what shape it would take. Some believed it might be a lucrative endorsement deal, others speculated it was a salary anomaly or an unprecedented signing bonus. The truth, when revealed, felt like a thunderbolt. Caitlyn Clark had secured a staggering $366,000 sum tied to her name, instantly becoming a headline that soared beyond the niche circles of women's hoops. To put this in perspective, the WNBA has long battled public misconceptions about compensation. Critics often point to the astronomical salaries in the NBA as a marker of success, ridiculing the comparatively modest paychecks in the women's league. So, hearing that a single card, contract, or collectible associated with Clark had hit $366,000 sent shockwaves across social media. Was this the breakthrough so many female athletes had been waiting for? A tangible sign that the financial gap could start closing? The reaction was swift. Sports analysts debated how this might affect player negotiations in the future. Critics, on the other hand, suggested it was a publicity stunt, arguing that the so-called value was artificially inflated by brand deals or corporate partners eager to align with the next big star. Others dug deeper, wondering if Clark's name was being leveraged in a high-stakes marketing ploy that would see her story overshadow real systemic change. Meanwhile, fans of women's sports erupted in excitement, celebrating what felt like a long overdue victory. The number $366,000 wasn't just a figure, it became a rallying cry. It represented the possibility that women's basketball could indeed command major attention, break stereotypes, and attract investments previously reserved for men's leagues. Conversations about increased media coverage, improved merchandising, and fairer endorsements grew louder by the day. But in the midst of that excitement, a different kind of spotlight began shining on Yael Wilson. Her spontaneous response to Clark's ice record caught the collective imagination, providing an unfiltered look at the raw emotion behind the headlines. Wilson wasn't just reacting to a competitor's success, she was stepping into a conversation about the future of the league itself. Yael Wilson's viral reaction. No press release, no strategic camera angles, no polished editing, just an athlete in a candid moment of sheer astonishment. When Yael Wilson heard about Caitlyn Clark's eye-popping record, she couldn't contain her joy. The footage showed Wilson literally jumping out of her seat, eyes wide, as she took in the magnitude of what had just happened. She let out a triumphant shout and half laughed, half shrieked in excitement. It was a side of Wilson fans rarely got to see, a raw, unscripted expression of pure awe. Instantly, social media seized on the clip. Viewers found it refreshing to see one-star athlete celebrating another's success without a hint of envy or corporate polish. Within hours, hashtags featuring both Clark and Wilson trended on multiple platforms, and sports shows began splicing Wilson's reaction into their highlight reels. The authenticity of the moment struck a chord, suggesting that the competitive fire driving these women also came with mutual respect. However, not everyone was thrilled. Detractors grumbled that Wilson's emotional display was contrived, an attempt to align herself with a headline-grabbing story to boost her own profile. Others claimed the league itself orchestrated the reaction, pointing to the suspiciously perfect camera angle that captured her. But those who knew Wilson insisted it was genuine. In their eyes, she was simply celebrating a milestone that could potentially elevate the standing of the entire sport. There's no question Wilson's outburst injected fresh energy into a conversation that might otherwise have settled into routine sports chatter. Fans who had never watched a WNBA game found themselves clicking on the viral clip and then diving deeper into the backstories of both athletes. The hype continued to build, fueling talk about marketing opportunities, brand sponsorships, and whether the WNBA might finally receive the mainstream spotlight many believed it deserved. Of course, any major spotlight can illuminate hidden cracks. And as Wilson's infectious reaction rippled through social networks, controversy bubbled up about the league's handling of its stars, overshadowed finances, and secret negotiations that threatened to overshadow even a moment this joyous. Controversies and rumors within the WNBA. While social media was celebrating the genuine camaraderie between Clark and Wilson, murmurs of discontent grew louder inside league circles. Critics argued that the WNBA, desperate for a spotlight, was focusing too heavily on one or two big names instead of promoting a range of talented athletes. Whispers of an internal power struggle cropped up, suggesting certain officials were uneasy about how quickly Clark's story was dominating headlines. Then came the most bizarre rumor, a 50-cent branded media rights deal that allegedly dwarfed previous contracts. Some said it was worth 11 times more than any existing agreement Clark had, although few concrete details emerged. Allegations surfaced that league leadership might be intentionally delaying official announcements about Clark's record-breaking. news so they could leverage the hype for a bigger payday with 50 Cent's branding team. As wild as these claims sounded, many fans noted that sports organizations have a history of orchestrating publicity to maximize financial gain. Adding to the confusion, internal memos reportedly circulated among WNBA higher-ups, instructing everyone to be cautious about how they positioned Clark's accomplishment. The stated reason was to prevent overshadowing the achievements of other players or stirring resentment about potential pay disparities. But conspiracy theories suggested it was more about protecting revenue streams tied to future deals. If Clark became too big, too fast, it could disrupt carefully planned marketing campaigns featuring other athletes. Meanwhile, the fans themselves had mixed reactions. Some were furious, accusing the league of failing to capitalize on a golden opportunity to promote women's basketball. Others insisted the WNBA had a history of bungling major stories, pointing to examples of past controversies or half-hearted promotional efforts. Yet a growing segment believed these rumors were overblown, fueled by internet speculation and the inherent drama that surrounds any major financial milestone in pro sports. Caught in this swirl, Caitlyn Clark and Yael Wilson continued doing what they do best, playing basketball and speaking candidly in interviews. Neither seemed overly eager to address the swirling controversies, focusing instead on the bigger picture, growing the sport. But the tensions continued to simmer, and talk of an impending showdown between WNBA officials, corporate sponsors, and star players began to dominate online discussions. The inescapable NBA comparison. Whenever women's basketball grabs headlines, the NBA looms in the background, both as a benchmark and an obstacle. Critics often argue that the speed, physicality, and financial clout of the men's league make it impossible for the WNBA to compete directly. They point to the disparity in salaries and revenue, highlighting that many top women's players spend off seasons in overseas leagues to supplement their incomes. But the conversation around Caitlyn Clark's $366,000 record changed the dynamic, at least momentarily. Suddenly, people who had never given the WNBA a second glance were asking, wait, how does that compare to the men's contracts? Is something shifting here? While the figure still paled in comparison to NBA superstar salaries, it was a significant number for a single athlete in women's sports, enough to generate fresh curiosity. NBA players and coaches, for their part, offered mixed reactions. Some publicly congratulated Clark, praising her for breaking barriers and drawing more eyes to the women's game. Others, usually speaking off the record, questioned whether the number was a genuine reflection of her market value or an orchestrated stunt. Meanwhile, a new wave of fans, lured in by the drama, began to see the WNBA not as a lesser version of the NBA, but as a distinct product with its own style and heroes. That said, the NBA overshadow remains a double-edged sword. Whenever WNBA athletes like Clark or Wilson reach impressive milestones, they face the inevitable question, but how does this compare to the men's league? Some feel that constant comparison devalues the achievements of female athletes, reducing them to a smaller piece on a larger chessboard. Others argue it's necessary to frame success within a broader sports market that's predominantly male-driven. In an age where viral moments can shift narratives overnight, Clark and Wilson have become a bridge, drawing in fans who might have tuned out before. Their story highlights a truth many have long suspected. The WNBA is teeming with raw talent and personalities dynamic enough to hold the public's attention, if only the league and its partners seize the opportunity effectively. Behind the scenes, whispers, deals, and strategic moves, from locker rooms to boardrooms, the chatter around Caitlyn Clark's record showed no signs of subsiding. While fans reveled in this spike of attention, insiders claimed a different drama was unfolding in the league offices. Anonymous sources hinted at behind-the-scenes negotiations involving brand partnerships, broadcast deals, and sponsorships that could significantly alter the financial structure of women's basketball. One persistent rumor involved an upcoming partnership with a major retail chain, an arrangement that would highlight Caitlyn Clark's name and image on merchandise, ranging from apparel to limited edition collectibles. If that collaboration moved forward, it could potentially match or exceed the $366,000 figure that initially put Clark in the headlines. This kind of mainstream cross-promotion was unprecedented for a WNBA athlete, potentially signaling a new phase where women's basketball engages with corporate America on a large scale. Meanwhile, league officials reportedly struggled to orchestrate a coherent message. Should they crown Clark as the next big superstar, risking the alienation of Veterans who've labored for years to keep the league afloat? Or should they distribute attention evenly among multiple talents, maintaining the WNBA's communal vibe at the cost of losing a potentially game-changing marketing icon? The tension was palpable, and the stakes were high. Then there was the unverified talk of hush money or conflict of interest payouts. Supposedly, certain longtime sponsors who favored a more traditional image for the league felt threatened by Clark's rapid rise and the new wave of endorsement possibilities. They wanted to ensure that their investments in other established stars weren't overshadowed, so they pressured league officials to slow Clark's momentum. No concrete evidence surfaced to back these claims, but the rumors alone fueled countless debates on fan forums, each post trying to parse fact from fiction. Caught in the crossfire, Clark and Wilson found themselves pulled in multiple directions. Wilson, who was just being herself on camera, now represented something bigger: the possibility of open, unscripted passion in a sport that often felt carefully managed. Clark, on the other hand, balanced the weight of enormous expectations with the swirl of controversies that could threaten her focus on the game. The future outlook: challenges, opportunities, and next steps. Despite the swirling controversies, there's no denying the energy Caitlyn Clark and Ye Wilson have injected into the WNBA. For the first time in a long while, casual sports fans are tuning in, curious to see what might happen next. This curiosity is an asset if the league manages it correctly. Strategic endorsements, thoughtfully designed marketing campaigns, and consistent media coverage could usher women's basketball into a new era of visibility. Still, challenges remain. The potential 50-cent branded media rights deal looms large, with some insiders praising it as a chance to bring mainstream attention to the WNBA on a colossal scale. Others worry it could overshadow individual athlete stories or funnel too much power into the hands of corporate partners. If the league fails to find a balance, it risks alienating loyal fans who crave authenticity as much as star power. At the center of it all stands Caitlyn Clark, who might very well be on the brink of becoming a global sensation. If she continues to deliver high-octane performances and racks up more accolades, sponsors will line up, networks will battle for broadcasting rights, and her profile could ascend to that rarefied space occupied by only a handful of basketball legends, male or female. But the glare of that spotlight also brings new critics, eager to tear down any rising star. Meanwhile, Ye Wilson's role could evolve into something more significant than a cameo in Clark's success story. Her viral reaction endeared her to a broader audience, and fans appreciated her genuine spirit. If she leverages that momentum, combining on-court dominance with off-court charm, she could create a new template for WNBA athletes who want to connect with the public in a more unfiltered way. The league might realize that fostering sincere player reactions, rather than scripting them, leads to stronger viewer engagement. Ultimately, the path forward depends on whether the WNBA embraces risk or clings to a cautious approach. One route leads to dynamic growth, new revenue streams, and a legion of new fans. The other keeps the league in a perpetual cycle of missed opportunities, overshadowed by larger-than-life narratives from men's sports. Either way, the conversation about women's basketball has undergone a seismic shift thanks to the extraordinary chain of events sparked by Caitlyn Clark's record and punctuated by Ye Wilson's joyful reaction. Caitlyn Clark didn't just set a record, she lit a fuse in women's basketball that continues to burn brighter by the day. That $376,000 figure is more than just a paycheck or a price tag. It's a statement that sparks debate about value, marketing, and the potential for female athletes to command the same spotlight that their male counterparts enjoy. Ye Wilson, in an utterly spontaneous moment, showcased the fierce camaraderie and unfiltered humanity that can turn casual viewers into devoted fans. Together, these two athletes have set off a cascade of discussions about how the WNBA markets its players, how sponsors negotiate their investments, and how fans perceive the often overlooked realm of women's sports. The rumored 50-cent deal, the cautious league executives, the critiques about overshadowing other players, they're all pieces in a complicated puzzle that might just reshape professional women's basketball if they fit together correctly. So, where does that leave us? On the cusp of transformation, it seems. With more people paying attention, the WNBA has a golden chance to rewrite its narrative, leaning into the stories of breakout superstars without neglecting the depth of talent spread across every roster. The real question is whether the league will seize this moment or let it fade amid a flurry of controversies and half-hearted media pushes. for fans, this is a call to action. Keep the conversation alive. Whether you're here because you love the thrill of competition or you're intrigued by the drama swirling behind the scenes, your voice holds the power to influence the direction women's basketball takes. Talk about it online, show up to games, support the players you believe in, and challenge the league to dream bigger. Because if there's one takeaway from Caitlyn Clark's thunderous achievement and Yo Wilson's unforgettable reaction, it's that women's sports are ready for center stage. They've got the talent, the passion, and now, at long last, the spark to light the path forward. The only remaining question is how brightly that spark will burn, and whether it will turn into a flame that no one can ignore.